How's it going? My name's Anthony Amos and I work for the number 40 at Sean Cantrell for Troy Lee Designs KTM. He runs medium, half waffle grips, and then fat bars. Bar mounts, he's running medium ones. We have a couple different options they could run. He prefers about the middle height. And then obviously we got the neck and clamps with WP cone valve suspension. So for our clutch and front brake master cylinders, we got carbon protection. We've never had any problems, but put them on there just to be safe. So they're factory Brembos. Yep, we got our billet throttle housing, and then just a regular aluminum throttle tube. Our levers are billet, and same with just like little clamps up here. They're all just a little bit tougher than stock would be. He prefers his front brake more on the touchy side. I've got WP exact forks on his bike with neck and triple clamps. So the whole shot device is kite, and it's for most part neutral position. Fork lugs are factory. We're on a tie front axle. We got a kite hub with DID rim. Then obviously we still have the factory brake on it and we do tie wire our spokes together just for protection in case one breaks. Floating front disc. We have a carbon front disc on it. And then we got the factory caliper from Brembo. Radiators are stock. Stock radiator cap is a 1.8, and then we'll put a 2.0 on it. This help when it gets hot, and Supercross, you know, we could probably get away with the 1.8, but we'll just run them all year. So for the radiator hoses, we do add a little bit extra protection. We do, yeah, for protection and heat also, just because it's so close to the motor that would just anything helps. So Ryan Cox does our engines in-house over at KTM, and for the most part, everybody's on the same engine. We pretty much get a base one, and if everyone likes it, that's what they all run. Pretty much everybody on our team does like a more bottom, so everybody's mostly on the same engine package. All of our case on our bikes are acridized, and they're all it's for heat and just more protection. And yep, so we do run a factory carbon skid plate, same with our carbon chain block. I also run the carbon head stays. The shifter is stock, and it's in just neutral position with the foot peg. So we got the Nihilo foot pegs with tie pins. So our pivot on our swing arm is stock, then we do run a tie nut on it. He runs a normal grip tape. He tried the frame guards and couldn't really tell a difference in them, and he just kind of liked to have a little bit skinnier down in the bottom. Chain guides and sliders are all stock minus the chain block. And then for our filter, we use a twin air. So for Supercross, we'll run a bit thinner filter, just, you know, get a little bit more airflow, and then once we switch over to outdoors, it'll be a little bit thicker, just so, you know, you prevent from dirt and dust and all that getting in there. So it's a stock seat, and then obviously we have our Throttle Syndicate seat cover, and then I do the humping, and it's just a normal bar pad. The comfort of the seat, he doesn't really care whether it's used or if it has 10 hours or 0 hours on it. So we had a factory fuel tank with a billet fuel cap. Alright, so he does prefer steering a little bit on the stiffer side. If it gets too loose, he will complain about it, so I always make sure to keep it tight. We got a kite slave cylinder. We use that mainly, the stock ones are good, but we're just a little bit stronger than the stock ones. So for our rear axle, it's a tie axle, and then we just have like little caps on it just to keep mud from packing up in there. And then for wheelbase, pretty much everybody's on the same. We all try to keep it, mostly everybody on the same setup, so it's all just fairly neutral. So we got Renthal sprockets. We pretty much stayed on the same gearing all year, but some guys will go down a tooth. So obviously on the rear, we got a kite hub, DID rim with spec tires, and then also the factory Brembo brakes. So the brake pads are all stock, all KTM part. Yeah, and then our axle nut it's machined, and then it's also a factory for us, so it just doesn't pack up with dirt and just kind of capped on the end of it. Okay, so for our exhaust, we have FMF. Supercross will run the bigger header that drops down, and then obviously our muffler is a little bit longer for sound. Linkage, we've been on the same one all year, and we haven't really had any troubles with it. He likes to set up, and he's not too picky, so he pretty much just bikes. If he's comfortable on the bike, he's pretty much just adapt to the tracks. So for our rear shock, we got WP. It's a track shock, and yeah, we got high and low speed all up top, and that's pretty much all we will mess with. Having the high speed and low speed right there, it's easy just to make like quick changes, especially in practice. So our rear master cylinder, same thing as stock, just the only thing different, it doesn't have a window in it, just, you know, in case a rock were to hit it, or just a little bit more protection. So our subframe is tie compared to the stock aluminum ones. We got all hints of components in our bikes, or in our motors with, there is a window, and then we'll just put some rubber on there just for protection, but we'll leave it open a little bit just so, you know, obviously check your oil and all that. We run a stock brake, and then we have a brake snake in case, you know, if they hit a tough block or if it gets ruddy. Obviously if it gets ruddy, it's not gonna bend it, but if they were to hit a tough block, it'll just bend it, it'll just save it from bending out too far, and they'll still be able to finish the race. Clevis and all that stock on the rear brake. We'll just, you know, run tie bolts and all that. Yeah, so we do have numbers on our motors, and that's just for, you know, all of our riders have number set of motors, and so they just go in rotation, you know, every 2 races. And then Kirby's provides us all the plastic with the flow orange. So we run Throttle Syndicate graphics. So we run the 2D data logger on our bikes, and obviously like some other teams you can see it on their bikes. Ours is pretty much hidden, and we run it just so, you know, if they come off the track and they say the bike's having a problem, we can just plug it in, look and figure out exactly what's going on with the machine. If you were to buy a stock KTM, there's obviously the map switch and all that ECUs are programmed, so it's all just in there, so we don't really need the button. So we reroute our harnesses a little bit with what we can. Obviously there's some stuff we're not allowed to change, but we will make them, just condense them down and make them a little bit easier. And pretty much for all the fluids in our bike, we'll run Motorex, you know, obviously with oil, chain lube, and just, you know, all the stuff we'll put on the plastics and whatnot for like mud. We have about 90% tie on our bike. We do run some stock bolts, and we do have a little bit of aluminum. So usually after Saturdays when they're done racing, we usually will build on Sundays, so we'll tear the whole bike down, frame, pull every bolt, needle bearing, all that out, and just go through it. You know, there's some stuff we'll change out every race, some stuff, you know, it's on time, and then rebuild it and get ready for the next weekend. I mean, I'd say compared to some of our other riders, he's actually probably the most easiest on his bike. Yeah, clutches, I mean, we'll go probably a couple more hours than everybody else on a clutch.